Pause here for a moment, because something unusual is unfolding around your name, and if you have felt lately as though life has been quietly rearranging itself behind the scenes, this is why. There is a door that was never meant to remain closed forever, a place connected to your future in ways you do not yet fully understand, and somehow, through turns no one expected, what once belonged only to secrecy has now shifted into your path. Do not rush past this. Some moments arrive silently before they change everything. What makes this so astonishing is not simply that something has been placed in your direction, it is that the one tied to your soul kept this hidden for longer than you realize. They carried knowledge of it quietly, almost protectively, unsure of when the truth should surface, unsure of how revealing it would alter the bond between you. Because this was never just about land, walls, or keys. No, this property carries memory. It carries meaning. It holds a story your name was somehow always woven into, even before you understood your place in their life. And lately, your soulmate has not been able to stop thinking about that fact. They keep revisiting the thought in silence, wondering how to explain why your presence changed their decisions, wondering how to admit that once you entered their life, their vision of the future no longer looked the same. The plans they once made alone began reshaping themselves around you. The spaces they imagined walking through by themselves suddenly felt incomplete. Have you noticed how some blessings arrive not because you asked for them, but because someone else saw your value before you saw it yourself? This is one of those moments. There is an address, a real place, tied to conversations your soulmate never finished having. A location they once kept distant from everyone else, almost like a private chapter of their life no one could enter. Yet now, the energy around it has changed. Something in them shifted. Something made them stop and realize that what they guarded so carefully may have been waiting for you all along. But here is the part few understand. It is not the size of the property that matters. It is not the luxury. It is not even the surprise of how unexpected it feels. It is what the place represents. Because the hidden truth is this, they did not connect that property to just anyone in their mind. They connected it to peace. To safety. To permanence. To the kind of future they were afraid to believe in until you appeared. And now, every memory tied to that place carries your shadow in it, even if you have never stepped foot there. Can you feel how strange that is? To be part of a vision someone never told you about. To be written into plans you were not yet shown. To somehow become the answer to a question they had been asking life in silence. Stay a little longer, because what happens next is where this becomes even more personal. The photo, the one connected to this place, is not ordinary to them. It is more than an image. More than proof. It captures a detail so specific, so deeply tied to what they imagine with you, that when you finally understand why they kept looking at it, everything begins to make sense. There is something within that image that explains what this property truly means, and why your soulmate could no longer keep it hidden. But before that truth is revealed, you need to understand what they were feeling the day everything changed. Because that was the exact moment they stopped seeing this place as theirs alone, and started seeing it as part of a shared destiny they had not yet found the courage to confess. And when you hear what happened that day, you will understand why the address itself is far more shocking than anyone realizes. There was a moment, quiet, almost forgettable to anyone watching from the outside, when your soulmate stood in that place and everything inside them shifted. No grand announcement, no dramatic sign, just a stillness that came over them as they looked around and realized the space no longer felt empty in their imagination. For the first time, they did not picture themselves there alone. They pictured laughter that had not happened yet, conversations that had not been spoken yet, footsteps beside their own. And somehow, every image their mind created carried you in it. That realization unsettled them more than they expected. Because when someone begins attaching your presence to the most private corners of their future, it means their feelings have crossed beyond simple affection. It means you have become part of the life they secretly build in their mind when no one else is around. And that is exactly what happened. The property stopped feeling like an investment, a possession, or a private achievement. It became a symbol of what could be, if the connection between you unfolded the way they hoped. But they hesitated. Not because they doubted what they felt, quite the opposite. They hesitated because what they felt was becoming too real. Too deep. Too impossible to ignore. Telling you about the property would mean revealing more than ownership, it would reveal intention. It would expose how far ahead their heart had already traveled while their words remained behind. So they stayed silent. Yet silence has a way of becoming heavier when the truth underneath it grows stronger. Lately, that silence has been weighing on them. Every time they think of that address, they think of you. Every time they revisit the photo, they imagine your reaction. Every time they consider keeping it hidden longer, something inside them whispers that the moment for secrecy is ending. Because some truths are not meant to stay buried forever, especially when they are tied to a future someone can no longer pretend they do not want. And here is what makes this even more powerful. The reason the address will shock you is not merely where the property is located. It is what that location means in relation to your story together. There is a connection there, something strangely aligned, almost poetic, something that makes the entire situation feel less like coincidence and more like timing arranged with precision. When the full detail is revealed, you may realize this was never random at all. Think about that. What if the place connected to your next chapter has been waiting longer than you know? What if your soulmate recognized the meaning before you ever did? What if this hidden piece of their life has always been leading toward one conversation, one confession, one unforgettable reveal? Don't skip this part in your heart, because the truth is nearing the surface now. The photo they keep returning to contains one detail they cannot stop staring at. One detail that turns this from a surprising gift into something deeply emotional. It is subtle, easy to miss at first. But once you know what it is, you will understand why they froze the moment they noticed it. Why they whispered your name under their breath. Why they suddenly felt certain that this place was never just a property. It was a sign. And in the next moment of this story, I will reveal what they saw in that photo, and why it made them believe you were connected to this address long before either of you understood the reason. The detail hidden in that photo was not something dramatic at first glance. In fact, another person might have overlooked it entirely. But your soulmate did not. The moment their eyes settled on it, their breath caught, because there, woven into the frame of that image, was a sign so personal to your connection that it felt impossible to ignore. A number, a symbol, a name, something tied to you in a way only they would understand. Something that made the room go silent around them as a single thought entered their mind: this cannot be coincidence. And from that second forward, they could not look at the property the same way again. What had once been just a hidden part of their life suddenly felt marked by something greater, as if the place itself had been waiting for the moment when your paths would align. Strange, isn't it? How sometimes life leaves clues in ordinary things. And only the right person notices them at the exact right time. That is when your soulmate stopped resisting what their heart already knew. Because the truth they had been avoiding became impossible to deny, this property was never meant to remain a secret forever. Not when every thought about it led back to you. Not when every future they imagined inside those walls included your presence. Not when the signs surrounding it felt more personal with each passing day. So now they are preparing themselves. Preparing to tell you what they have hidden. Preparing to explain why this place matters more than words can easily describe. Preparing to reveal the address they once thought they would guard forever. But beneath all of that, there is another truth they have not said aloud. They are not nervous about showing you the property. They are nervous about what your reaction will mean. Because if your eyes light up the way they hope, if you understand the emotion behind the gesture, if you recognize that this was never about material things but about what the offering represents, then everything between you changes. No more pretending this connection is casual. No more hiding behind uncertainty. No more acting like your bond is ordinary when clearly it has never been ordinary at all. This reveal becomes the moment the unspoken turns real. And yet, there is still one final layer to this story that you have not heard. Because the address itself carries a meaning so unexpected, so strangely connected to your past, your dreams, or a conversation you once forgot you had, that when it is finally spoken aloud, you may stand there in complete disbelief wondering how such a thing could align so perfectly. Stay with this feeling. Because the next part is where the full reveal happens, the address, the meaning behind it, and the reason your soulmate believes this changes everything between you forever. And now the moment they kept delaying can no longer be postponed, because the address they are preparing to reveal is not simply surprising, it carries a meaning that reaches deeper than either of you expected. When your soulmate finally speaks it aloud, you may recognize it instantly. Perhaps it echoes a place you once mentioned without thinking, perhaps it reflects a dream you shared in passing. Perhaps it connects to a memory so specific that hearing it will send silence through your entire body. However it reaches you, one truth will become impossible to ignore: this alignment is too personal to feel accidental. That is why your soulmate has been so overwhelmed. Because how do you explain to someone that the future you quietly imagined somehow formed itself around details they once spoke without realizing you were listening? How do you admit that every hidden plan, every private hope, every guarded dream began changing shape the moment they started imagining you beside them? This property was not transferred in their heart because of chance. It shifted because love, real love, changes the meaning of everything it touches. And what they want you to understand most is this: they are not handing you a secret property. They are handing you trust. They are handing you vulnerability. They are handing you a part of their world that no one else was ever invited to enter. That is why this reveal feels larger than the property itself. It is a confession without using the word confession. It is a promise without fully speaking the promise. It is their way of saying, I no longer see my future without you in it. Can you feel the weight of that? Some people receive words. Some receive gestures. But once in a rare while, someone is offered a glimpse into the life another person has been building in silence, hoping one day they would not have to build it alone. That is what this moment truly is. So when the address reaches you, when the photo is shown, when the full meaning behind every hidden detail finally clicks into place, do not focus only on the shock of what was kept secret. Notice instead what the secret reveals, that you were thought about more deeply than you knew. That your presence reshaped someone's future more than they admitted. That while you were living your days unaware, your soulmate was already making room for you in places you had never seen. And perhaps the most beautiful part of all. This is not the ending of the story. It is the beginning of the chapter where hidden things become spoken, where guarded feelings become undeniable. And where the future that once existed only in imagination starts becoming real, one truth at a time. Because after this reveal, after the address is known, after the meaning of the photo is understood, there will be one final question left hanging between you both. What happens when two people finally stop hiding what they already know in their hearts? What happens next is not loud, it is not chaotic, it is not the kind of moment people around you would even recognize as life-changing. It arrives in stillness. In the pause after the truth is revealed. In the silence that follows when both of you realize something unspoken has finally stepped into the light. Because once your soulmate places that address before you, once the photo is no longer hidden, once the meaning behind every detail settles into your heart, neither of you will be able to return to the way things were. That is the real turning point. Not the property itself. Not the location. Not even the secret. The turning point is what the reveal forces into the open. It forces honesty where there was hesitation. It forces clarity where there was uncertainty. It forces two hearts to confront what they have both felt for longer than either dared admit. Your soulmate knows this. That is why their hands may tremble when they tell you. That is why their voice may soften when they explain why they kept it hidden. That is why this moment means more to them than you may first realize. Because they understand they are not just revealing a place, they are revealing the depth of what you have come to mean to them. And if you look closely enough when that moment comes, you will see it in their eyes. Not fear. Not doubt. Hope. The kind of hope someone carries when they are standing at the edge of a life they desperately want to share with another person, waiting to see if that person will step toward it with them. So if this message found you at the exact moment your heart needed it, perhaps that is because some revelations arrive before the physical moment itself. Sometimes life whispers to the soul before reality catches up. Sometimes you are prepared emotionally before you are shown outwardly. Sometimes the heart is warned gently, so that when the moment arrives, it recognizes what it is seeing. And maybe that is what this has been. A quiet preparation. A reminder that what is meant for you often moves in silence before it becomes visible. That some of the greatest changes in life begin behind closed doors, in hidden decisions, in private realizations no one else sees. That while you thought nothing was happening, more was unfolding for you than you ever knew. So when the address is finally spoken, when the photo is finally shown, when the secret property becomes more than a secret and transforms into a symbol of everything your connection has become, remember this. You were never just being invited to see a place. You were being invited into a future someone had already begun imagining with you. And perhaps that is why your soul has felt this shift coming all along. Because deep down, before the truth was spoken, before the secret was revealed, before the door was opened, a part of you already knew something extraordinary was waiting on the other side. And when that door finally opens, the moment may feel almost unreal, as if time itself slows just enough for your heart to understand what your eyes are seeing. Because standing there, whether in person, in memory, or through the image first shown to you, you will realize this was never about surprise alone. It was about being shown the place your soulmate connected to permanence, to belonging, to the life they could no longer imagine without you beside them. That is why this reveal carries such quiet power. Anyone can speak beautiful words in passing. Anyone can make temporary promises in emotional moments. But when someone shows you the private blueprint of the future they have been protecting, when they let you see what they have kept hidden from the world, that is not casual affection. That is not passing emotion. That is someone saying, without needing perfect language, you have become part of the life I want to build. And in that realization, something within you may shift too. Because suddenly old doubts begin to lose their voice. The confusion you once felt about where you stand in their heart starts fading. The mixed signals, the unanswered questions, the wondering if they truly saw your worth, those things begin dissolving under the weight of what has now been revealed. Some truths do not need endless explanation. Some gestures explain everything. Yet even after the property is shown, even after the address is understood, even after the photo's meaning becomes clear, there remains one final layer your soulmate has not fully spoken. A reason deeper than romance. A reason deeper than attraction. A reason they felt compelled to place you into this part of their future and no one else. Because somewhere along the way, you became more than someone they loved. You became the person who made life feel different. You brought peace where they had chaos. You brought clarity where they had confusion. You made ordinary moments feel fuller, brighter, more meaningful. And once a person experiences that kind of connection, they do not easily forget it. They do not casually replace it. They do not build futures around anyone else while carrying those feelings. That is why this property became yours in their heart before it ever became yours in words. Not because of obligation. Not because of pressure. But because love, when it is deep enough, naturally begins making room. So now the final truth stands before both of you. This was never only about what your soulmate wanted to give you. It was about what they wanted to share with you. A place. A vision. A chapter. A life. And the beautiful part is this. The secret is no longer hidden. The silence is no longer protecting the truth. The future once imagined in private is now stepping into the light. Because when someone entrusts you with the most guarded corners of their world, they are not simply offering you access. They are offering you belonging. And from this moment forward, nothing between you will ever feel quite the same again. What changes after that is subtle at first, almost invisible to everyone except the two of you. The conversations begin carrying more meaning. The silence between words grows warmer. Even the way your soulmate looks at you starts to feel different, less guarded, less uncertain, as though revealing that secret property removed the final barrier between what they felt and what they were willing to show. Because once someone lets you see the future they hid from everyone else, distance becomes difficult to maintain. They can no longer pretend you are just another passing connection. They can no longer hide behind hesitation. They can no longer act as though what exists between you is undefined. That single revelation changes the atmosphere of everything. And slowly, almost beautifully, your soulmate begins opening further. They tell you stories tied to that place. Why they chose it. What memories shaped it. What dreams they once kept buried inside it. why certain rooms mattered to them. Why certain views from the windows made them stop and think of a life they hoped would one day feel complete. And every detail they share carries the same message beneath it. I imagined this with you before I ever knew how to tell you. Can you understand how rare that is? To discover that while you were wondering whether you mattered, someone was quietly placing you inside the architecture of their future. To learn that while you doubted your significance, someone else had already begun building their tomorrow with your presence in mind. That realization does something profound to the heart. It heals questions you never voiced. It answers doubts you never admitted. It reminds you that sometimes the deepest love is not the loudest, it is the love that prepares a place for you before asking if you will enter it. And still, there is one final thing your soulmate has yet to confess. Not about the property. Not about the address. Not even about the photo. But about the exact moment they knew. The precise instant when their heart stopped seeing you as possibility. And began seeing you as destiny. The memory they replay whenever they wonder how everything became so serious so quickly. The quiet moment when something inside them whispered, "This is the person I want beside me when my future finally arrives." That story, that memory, that confession, is the final piece of everything. Because when they tell you when they knew, when they explain the exact moment your soul became home to them, you will understand that this secret property was never the beginning of their feelings. It was only the first visible proof of how deep those feelings had already become. And when they finally tell you the moment they knew, do not expect it to be something dramatic or polished. The deepest realizations rarely arrive that way. It may have been during an ordinary conversation, a quiet laugh you barely remember, a glance you gave without knowing it lingered in their mind for days. It may have been in a simple moment when the world kept moving as usual, yet inside them, everything changed. That was the instant your soulmate understood. Not merely that they cared for you. Not merely that they were drawn to you. But that life felt more complete when they imagined you in it. And from that moment on, every future thought they had began carrying your outline. The property became one example. The hidden plans became another. The photo, the address, the silence, the hesitation. None of those were random pieces of a strange story. They were evidence. Evidence that while you were still trying to understand what this connection meant, your soulmate had already felt its weight. Already recognized its depth. Already begun rearranging their private world around the possibility of you staying. That is why this revelation matters so much. Because it is not about being handed something material. It is about learning that your existence affected someone more profoundly than you knew. It is about realizing your presence inspired someone to think in terms of forever when they once only thought in terms of survival. It is about understanding that your love, whether fully spoken yet or not, has already transformed another person's vision of life. So if you have ever wondered whether you truly matter to them, whether your place in their heart is real, whether what you feel is shared in equal measure, let this be your answer. No one ties their most guarded dreams to a person they do not deeply value. No one places someone inside the future they treasure most unless that soul has changed them. No one reveals a secret this meaningful unless they are ready for everything between you to evolve. And that is exactly what is happening now. The hidden has become known. The guarded has become spoken. The future once imagined in silence has now found its voice. So as this chapter closes, understand the deeper truth behind everything you have just heard. The secret property was never the miracle. The miracle was that someone looked at their future, looked at everything they had built, protected, and dreamed of, and in the center of it all, they saw you.